Good day, everybody. This is Steve Anderson. Welcome to our webinar today. We're about 3 minutes from start time. And so I just wanted to give you just a couple of housekeeping items to get started here. So for one of our webinars, you're in listen-only mode. That means that you should be able to hear us loud and clear. We cannot hear you. That's to eliminate any background noise that might be distracting. If you have any questions as we go through the webinar today, feel free to enter those in your question bar in your control panel that's on your screen. This webinar is being recorded today and will be posted at crowncouncil.org later today with the resources that we'll talk about. So feel free to, you'll get an email notification when it has been posted. And we hope that you'll find the information here so valuable that you'll want to not only listen to it again, but you'll also want to be able to share it with your team members that are not with us today. Just to give you just a couple of announcements, we're very much looking forward to the Crown Council annual event coming up in Nashville the first weekend of February. We have a near capacity crowd. It's going to be one of our best. It's always amazing when we go to Nashville. Very much looking forward to our Smiles for Life charity concert that will be held at the Ryman Theater, the Mother Church of Country Music, on the Thursday evening preceding the main opening of the annual event. If you haven't, you'll see more announcements about that. It's going to have an all-star music roster of some amazing people that will be sharing with us at the annual event. So if for some strange reason you haven't registered for the annual event, you can go to ccannualevent.com and you can register for the few spaces that are available there. Very good. I think with that, we will go ahead and just pause here momentarily while we start our recording, and the webinar will begin in just a moment. Good day, everybody. This is Steve Anderson, and I'm joined today by Pam Peterson, who is our lead practice advisor at the Total Patient Service Institute. Good day, Pam.
Hello, Steve.
Good to have all of you with us, and Pam, especially to have you share with us as well. This webinar today, I Can Afford It, is one of the most comprehensive webinars that we have ever put together on financial arrangements. This is going to be very rapid fire, filled with information, and we'll also have some resources that are available after the webinar that you'll want to access that will be posted at crowncouncil.org. So hope you'll pay very close attention and you'll want to take good notes here. There is some dynamite information here that has been tested and proven in practices all over the country. So with that, just as a reminder, if you'd like to ask any questions as we go along, feel free to enter those in the question panel in your question box in the control panel, and we can address those later on in the presentation. We're going to talk about a number of tools today that you can add to your financial arrangements toolbox. And the whole design of this is that we want to fill your toolbox to capacity. You're familiar with the old story of the plumber who's called to fix a leak, and he walks in, he observes the situation, very carefully chooses the correct tool out of his toolbox, and in less than 30 seconds he fixes the leak and then turns to the customer and says that will be $125. And of course the customer says, $125 for 30 seconds of work? And he says, no, it's not for the 30 seconds of work. It's for the years of experience of knowing which tool to use to fix this problem immediately. So we're going to fill your toolbox today with financial arrangements tools, over 50 of them, if not more, that you can use to do more effective financial arrangements that will get a yes to treatment. So Pam and I are going to walk through these with you, and again, we hope you take notes, and feel free again to go back and watch this webinar with your team, as this is an entire team sport. It's just not the financial coordinator that runs financial arrangements. Let's talk about a couple of tools. First is your own practice financial guidelines. So this is an internal document that you should have, that the entire team should be familiar with. And this is one that outlines what financial arrangements are acceptable, what the boundaries are. Essentially, if a team member is doing financial arrangements, what is permitted in your office, so that financial arrangements stay within a certain set of boundaries. So this is just an example of financial guidelines. For example, the first guideline is that payment is due unless in full is due unless financial arrangements have been made, and then it walks through specifically what those financial arrangements can be. So action item number one, if you haven't gone through and created an internal document that specifically outlines what financial arrangements are permissible in your practice, that would be job one, so that everybody knows what they can and they can't do. We've said for years that there is never an accounts receivable problem. Accounts receivable are only the symptom of a financial arrangements problem. So the goal here is to do really good financial arrangements so that you never have an accounts receivable problem. And this is where it starts, by having very clearly outlined financial guidelines. Next is your financial policy. In other words, what your financial agreement is that your patients agree to when they check in. And so this clearly outlines what your arrangement is with insurance, so that they know exactly what they can expect. Now, in every practice it's different. There's several different strategies that can be used depending on what your relationship is with insurance, whether you're contracted or not. A lot of different things that you can do there, including taking a credit card up front that automatically bills their card for any remainder that the insurance does not pay for. So a lot of strategies there, but the key is to have the financial policy in place so that they sign off on that when they check in. Third tool is what we call the new patient relationship form. Most everybody in the Crown Council is very, very familiar with this document. It is what drives the patient relationship in the practice. So this is used from the very first phone call when the new patient calls, where we track and get to know the patient and what really matters most to them, and this becomes part of their chart. This becomes really important in financial arrangements because it's not just the treatment that they're buying, but also the reason that they are buying the treatment. And so the new patient relationship form guides the entire team through the process of finding not only what the patient wants, but why they want it. So those three documents, for starters, are critically important as prerequisites to doing good financial arrangements. Now, one of the secrets that we've found to having really not only good financial arrangements, but financial arrangements that get accepted, is understanding what we call the patient's M&M. In other words, what matters most to them. So not just what they want, but why they want it. So not just the fact that they want to keep their teeth, for example, but because they want to keep their teeth because they watched their parents live with the pain and suffering of having to live with dentures for years. Or not just the fact they want whitening, but the fact that they have an upcoming marriage or marriage of a family member and they want to look great for that event. So there are several different skill of the week on this topic, as well as our own Total Patient Service Total Immersion course that very much centers on really finding out what patients want. So it's not just about the money. I guess the point is all of the things that we'll talk about from this point forward, we're assuming that the patient wants the treatment. If the patient doesn't want the treatment, then it's not a matter of money that's the issue. Money's not the problem. There's another problem, which is we haven't connected the treatment to something that they really want. So if you struggle with financial arrangements, then then the first question to ask is, am I dealing with a patient who really wants what I'm talking about, or am I still trying to talk them into treatment when I'm doing financial arrangements? They are two separate but related things. So by the time the patient sits down for financial arrangements, they should have already agreed to the treatment and established the fact they want it and why they want it. So then your job is simply to figure out the best way to fit it into their budget and make it work for them. Let's talk about the environment where you do financial arrangements. A couple of choices here. One is a quiet consult room, which is always good. Our preference is to do it right in the treatment room. And there's a lot of psychological reasons for this. It's not always, you can't always do it, but if possible, if you can do financial arrangements while they're still in the chair, so they don't have to get up and move and change their physiology, then we find that your financial arrangements will be much more successful. So if it's possible, then absolutely do it chair side, and you'll find a great deal more success in your financial arrangements results. Go to them, don't make them come to you. All right, Pam, let's talk about the importance of the schedule in financial arrangements.
Happy to. Many of you know the two most important days in a dental practice is today and tomorrow. It's really important for the entire team to know the first major appointment for doctor, the first major appointment for hygiene, the first minor appointment for doctor, and the first minor appointment for hygiene. A major appointment for a doctor would be $500 or more, and a minor appointment for a doctor would be $400 or less. For a hygienist, we'll use procedures. A major would be periodontal therapy. A minor would be 4910 perio maintenance or healthy mouth cleaning. Also, it's really important to have a nice pen. Now, we may frown upon this thinking everybody has a nice pen. No, I've been around and I've seen some pink flamingos, feathers, flowers, or even pens from your specialist. You want to make sure that your pen reflects your practice. Image is everything. So make sure you have a nice pen when presenting financial arrangements.
Next piece in the whole formula is what we call a relationship link. Many of you, if not most of you, are very familiar with this, which is linking the treatment from the dental assistant or the dentist or the hygienist to the financial coordinator. Now, the ingredients of this are what we call the W5. It's the same formula that they use in journalism. Who, what, when, where, and why. So in other words, you introduce who is the patient, what is it that you've talked about, what's the treatment, when, what are all the time considerations that are important to that treatment, when are you going to do the treatment, when do you need to finish the treatment, where have they been, where are they now, and where are they going in terms of their goals for their dentistry and their life. And then, of course, the why, which is critically important, is why do they want this treatment? That last W, which is the why, we consider to be the most important. Even more important than the treatment itself is understanding why the patient wants the treatment in the first place. So tightening up that relationship link, as in contrast to what's traditionally known in dentistry as a handoff, where you just hand the patient off to the next team member. This is very different. This is a clear communication where you're reviewing everything you've talked about with the patient so that the financial coordinator then has all the information and the relationship linked to them so that they can move forward. Next is the formula. We're going to talk about a 5-step formula that many of you are familiar with, which we use the acronym BRIEF. And BRIEF stands for 5 steps that you can follow to have very good quality financial arrangements. So the first is to begin with the benefit. So if you've done a good relationship link, then you should be able to start with the benefit that is of most interest to the patient. To be able to say, okay, so what matters most to Mrs. Jones is that we get this treatment done before her high school reunion, because she is the high school reunion chairman and she wants to be looking her very best or whatever it is. So you want to begin with the patient benefit and review that so that the patient knows that you know what really matters most to them. Next, you're going to review the plan. And that's the actual treatment plan. And there are some real clear suggestions here. Pam, do you want to talk about those?
Absolutely. We have two examples to share. One is if you choose to use a treatment plan directly from your software, you can modify it and customize it to fit your practice, which means every line item you can change so that patients aren't confused with what shows up on the treatment plan. You want to simplify it. The second option, which we're very familiar with, we call it the Easy Pay form. You can customize an Easy Pay form for your practice, what you offer regarding your prepayment courtesy, any financial options that you have as far as a resource, which we're going to go over shortly, and then any in-office payment plan where you could have a credit card on file. So you want to make sure that it's easy and it's simple for patients to understand when presenting financial arrangements.
Key here is to present one fee, not two or three. In other words, up here in this example, what we don't want is we don't want all the fees itemized for each part of the treatment plan. So it's you're welcome to put anything you want in there in terms of what you're going to do, but then there is just one fee that you'll talk about, and then we'll talk about how you deal with insurance in just a moment. So whether you use the form straight out of your practice management software, if it allows you to modify it so there's only one fee, or you create your own form, which simplifies the process. Again, the key is to present one fee. So after you've reviewed the treatment plan with the patient, then we are going to introduce the fee. So Pam, there's a couple of key verbal skills, key things to do when introducing the fee.
Absolutely. First, silence is golden. When introducing the fee, allow the patient to speak first. Second, you want to watch your language. You want to make sure you don't use terms like out of pocket. You want to replace out of pocket with your portion is. Second, there is your insurance will only cover. You want to replace that with your insurance savings. You want to send the message to the patient, no matter what insurance will cover, it's a benefit. It's better than what you started with.
Another suggestion here is when you're presenting the fee, and Pam said silence is golden, you want to present the fee and then shut up. And when you do that, how you state the fee, so for example, let's say that the fee is $2,500, you would not say, Pam, that fee is $2,500.
Whoa.
You would simply say it's $2,500. In other words, keep it simple and don't make it sound worse than it actually is. So how you present the fee, it matters because that's how they'll hear it. So present the fee and then wait for their response. So introduce the fee and then you can explore any concerns that they might have in terms of how to pay it. Now, you'll notice that in our previous form we actually had the ideal payment plan was outlined on that Easy Pay form, which is what we prefer. So there's a clear cut, here's the fee, and your insurance savings are, your estimated insurance savings are this much, which means your portion, again, not your out of pocket, but your portion is this. And then if it's on the form, you can say, and here's a suggested way for that to take care of that portion. So make it, here's the natural law. Those of you that have been with me before, you know all about natural laws, which is most of us will take the course of least resistance. In other words, if you give me a path to take, then I will typically take that path because I'll take the course of least resistance. So present the ideal, and what we found is that most people will go with the ideal. All right, so as you explore any concerns that the patient might have, let's talk about all the different ways that patients can actually pay for treatment. In other words, the more options that you have, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more financial arrangement success you'll have. We're going to go through a whole laundry list here of different ways that patients have paid for treatment. And again, you might, if I asked you how many different ways can they pay for treatment, you might be able to come up with 7 or 8. We're going to come up with dozens here. And again, if they want the treatment and you're very skilled at financial arrangements, then you can explore different options with them by saying, what about this, or what about that? Have you considered this? Have you considered that, in terms of a way to pay for treatment? So first off, dental insurance. Not that this is the number one thing to present, but it is a factor. Here's what we know about insurance, is that 60% of patients who have insurance go to the dentist on a regular basis, as in contrast to 40% of those who don't go to the dentist. So in other words, those who have insurance are more likely to go to the dentist because they want to take advantage of their benefits. So what is your attitude towards insurance? We hope that your attitude is, hey, it's a benefit to the patient, it's savings. Now there's some verbal skills that Pam just mentioned a few minutes ago, which is your insurance savings are. And so if your mentality is, here's the savings that you have based on the benefits you have, then it's a benefit to the patient. So that's one way, obviously, the patients can pay for treatment. The next way is cash. Pam, tell us about old-fashioned cash.
Old-fashioned cash is good. You'd be amazed at how many practices and how many encounters I have where when a patient says that they're going to pay cash for it, they are looked at as something's wrong with you. You don't have insurance? What's wrong with you? There are many patients, and a lot of you listening in today, that plan for the things that you want and utilize cash to get those things that you want. Our patients are the same way. So we have to make sure that we don't put up an objection to the patients who want to come and pay us cash.
Next, obviously, is to pay by check. That's an obvious one. Becoming more and more difficult in some places, but again, we want to make it as easy for people to pay as possible and have as many different options as they can. One really good, if you don't have this service, we highly recommend it. So your bank can supply this, or you're also welcome to tap into a Crown Council resource partner, Payment Alliance, that can provide you with desktop check clearing, which means that you can actually deposit the check while the patient is still standing there. So it scans the check just like they do at the bank, and the funds then will be cleared that same day. So that we highly recommend that, because your likelihood of having bounce checks and those things goes dramatically down when you can clear it right there on the desktop and you don't have to run it to the bank. Obviously a debit card, or you can do auto debit from their checking or their savings account. Now this is a service that you can subscribe to through your bank, or again through Payment Alliance. So Payment Alliance is the resource partner for the Crown Council that has handled all of the credit card merchant services for Crown Council practices for many, many years. They've actually established a Crown Council hotline. The number is on your screen, 844-847-1752. So you can call that hotline. They will know who you are in terms of, if you tell them you're from the Crown Council, that is our special number. And Gina Meyerson has been specifically assigned from the Payment Alliance team to handle all Crown Council members' questions, and so you're welcome to, I would keep that number on file. Anything that has to do with credit cards, credit card merchant services, desktop clearing, auto debit, I'll mention a few other services that you can talk to that Payment Alliance can help you with that'll make financial arrangements that much easier. So in this area, you can actually auto debit directly from their checking account without them ever having to write a check. And that can work especially as well if they're making payments. MasterCard, obviously, Visa, Discover, and American Express. Now, I put Discover and American Express in here because occasionally we run across a practice that does not take Discover or American Express. And usually the excuse for not taking American Express is because the discount rate is higher than it is for Visa or MasterCard. Just to give you a quick anecdote about that, last year I had an appointment with a firm, a professional services firm. We had a great conversation and we had decided to engage them. And when I went out for the financial arrangements, they had a retainer. Okay, so just think your fee. They had a retainer that was due upon signing the agreement. And so I pulled out my American Express card. And they said, oh, we don't take American Express. Well, that happened to be the card for the company that I was dealing with at the moment where I wanted to charge it. And so I said, well, okay, if you don't take American Express, I'm going to need to send you a check. So I took the financial arrangements form, I went back to the office, and between the time that I got to my office and I got to my accountant, several other phone calls came in, and I changed my mind. So the point being, how often does that happen in people's lives? Had they taken American Express, the engagement would have been confirmed and we would have been off and running. So they lost some business just because they didn't take American Express. I should be an advertisement, don't you think, Pam? Be a good advertisement.
Yes.
Again, make it easy for people. It doesn't cost that much more to do it, and it's certainly not worth the potential business that you lose by not making it easy for people to pay. Inquire about their flex spending account that's attached to their health insurance. Those are becoming increasingly popular. A lot of times people don't even consider that because they may put dentistry in a different category than they do their regular health insurance. So their flex spending as well as their health savings account, if they have one of those certainly are options that you can inquire about when they're trying to find ways to pay for treatment. It is today very easy for people to get a 401k loan, and if the treatment is big enough and it's something that they really want to do, then yeah, make it easy for them. Again, you're presenting options for places where they can find the money. If they have the money in their 401k, it makes a lot more sense for them to pay interest to themselves than it does to pay interest to a bank or someone else. Many employers have a program where they can get a loan from the employer. So that's another option. If it's tax refund time, that's also another place where patients have paid. If they have any gold or silver or copper hanging around, one of our favorite stories from Dr. Tommy Neighbors in Nashville is a patient who actually had gold Cougarans frozen in his freezer that he had kept safe to get his dental work done, and he put them in his freezer so that he wouldn't spend them on anything else until he had collected enough to pay for his dentistry. So again, you never know. Dividing up payments. In other words, you can divide up payments sometimes just having a simple payment plan where they maybe put some down today when they schedule the treatment and then some in a couple of weeks and some when the seed. I mean, you can get creative in terms of sometimes just a little bit of time helps people afford the payment. Prepay with a discount. So in other words, offering your patients a small discount, maybe 5% if they prepay 100% of the treatment up front. That way they're committed and you've got 100% of your money and you're all good. This is one of my favorites. This is what we call a $1 a day program. So this is especially effective with whitening and with Invisalign. So my favorite question to go on the dental history form in the whitening area says, if you could whiten your teeth for an investment that anyone could afford, would you do it? Most people will check yes to that question. Then when they sit down and you're reviewing the dental history form, then you can ask them, you can say, would you consider $1 a day to be a pretty reasonable investment? And of course they'll say yes, and they'll say, great, we have a great program in our practice where you can get started, if everything is in shape, to get started whitening your teeth today, and it's just $1 a day for the rest of your life. No, it's not the rest of your life. Just $1 a day. So in other words, it's $30 a month, $1 a day, until the balance of however much it is paid off. Right? So the only two procedures that where where we encourage or suggest that the practice could do some internal financing is on whitening because the cost is relatively low, and perhaps on Invisalign because they have to come back for multiple visits and they do get more trays every time they come back, so there is an incentive for them to pay. So there is a program that will allow you to do this. Again, Payment Alliance can help you set this up. It's an online credit card terminal, so when the patient agrees to this, then you can go in and enter all their information in a secure online terminal. You can program in the payments. It will clear their card automatically on those dates, send you a report, you post the payments, and you're good to go. If in the event that a card doesn't clear, it will also send you a report to that effect so you can follow up. So again, for those two procedures, it is an option that can help you dramatically increase your whitening and your Invisalign case acceptance. There are a number of electronic payment sources that have emerged, PayPal obviously being one of the first. There are several others that have cropped up over the last couple of years. PayPal has started offering a payment program that you can look into that actually gives their customers the option of paying you today and paying PayPal out over time if they qualify. So that's another option to look into, so that if patients are looking for a way to do that, that's another payment option that you can offer. Let's talk about third-party financing for a moment. Here's what we recommend is that you have at least 3 forms of third-party financing available to your patients. Pam, can you share with us why 3 and not just 1?
Well, 3, you want to make sure that you have options for your patients. Care credit, sometimes I've heard a lot of practices say, I haven't gotten a lot of approvals with Care Credit, it's getting harder. Well, with Care Credit, working with reps all over the country, when I'm working with clients, I know that if they get an abundance of chargebacks, it doesn't have anything to do with the patient's credit score, especially if it's in the medium range or the high, but if they've got a lot of chargebacks, they get really strict on the approvals. And so it's nice to have other options so that you have more than one resource for your patients. Because where one may be strict, the other one may be a little bit more lenient for credit that isn't at a higher standard as such as the top grade.
So we're gonna talk about
Fargo.
Thank you. We'll talk about a number of them here. Again, recommendation is you have at least 3 forms of third-party financing. Care Credit obviously is the standard bearer. They have been in the industry for the longest. They're the ones that everybody tries to take a shot at when they come in to do third-party financing. Care Credit is structured in a very interesting way, and the reason they've been around the longest is they are a brand first and they are a financing source second, meaning that Care Credit as a brand stands independent, of their financing source. So over the decades, Care Credit has changed their financing source several times, whereas the brand has remained consistent in the industry. So they've been around a long time. They have clearly the most brand recognition. They're in not only in dentistry, but also in eye care, medical care, even in veterinary medicine, so been around a long time. Most everybody is familiar with Care Credit, so I don't think I need to go into any details there, but obviously that would be the standard. Now, I'm going to go through 6 others and there are more than 6 others. I'm going to give you 6 that are the most widespread, knowing that there are some third-party finance options that might be specific to your locale in your part of the country, but these would be 6 others that are nationwide third-party finance sources. Lending Club, which recently purchased Springstone, has some interesting benefits. They have no sign-up fees or monthly minimums. They do charge 4.25% up to 14% of the funded loan, and they can finance between $500, actually $499, and $50,000. So they can do large cases. Their rates, their interest rates to the patient are as low today as 3.9% and terms up to 84 months. So there's a lot more details there, but they have, as most of you know, recently come on strong into dentistry when they acquired Springstone and doing some aggressive things to make it easy to do business with them. Citibank, that is promoted through Henry Schein, they charge between 3.9% and 13.9% per loan, depending on the credit score. It is a line of credit. They have lower monthly payments and no prepayment penalties, and the plan can extend out up to 48 months. Next is Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo again will charge between 4.9 and 12.9% of the loan as a discount fee. There's no annual fee or setup cost. It is a line of credit. Their regular APR is 12.9%, and they can do up to 36 months. Comprehensive finance. So this is an in-office patient financing program where you carry the paper, but you're doing it under their banner so that the patient doesn't know that it's an in-house program. So they will help you offer financing to your patients up to 60 months. The patient signs the loan agreement, and then all of the administration is handled by Comprehensive Finance. And you get to decide your own interest rate, anywhere from 0 to 18%. They do have a $1,500 enrollment fee and a $99 monthly fee to use their program. Key Smile Credit. So they have a monthly fee of $149. It's a month-to-month contract. 0% loan fee, and their loans range anywhere from $500 to $25,000 over 12 to 60 months. They'll get you approval within 24 hours. There's no prepayment penalty and a $5 application fee. And then finally, Eye Care Financial. So this is actually patient financing with no credit check. It is ideal for same-day treatment. There is an administration fee. There are some zero interest options, and the practice is guaranteed 100% of the money. So those are just 7 different third-party finance options. At the end of the webinar, I'll share with you a resource where you can get all the contact information and the details on all 7 of those finance programs. And again, there are others. Those are 7 that seem to be the most prevalent around the country. And again, the recommendation is that you have at least 3 forms of third-party financing available to give your patients options so you can mix and match what you do. Continuing on with ways to pay, suggesting that they have a co-signer if they're going to get third-party financing, and if they don't qualify, is there somebody that could sign with them so that they would qualify? Maybe they have a relative that could open up the account for them. Again, if they want it, then you're going to be as creative as you can to find ways to help them to pay for it. Maybe they have a relative or a friend who will just pay for the treatment outright. They could cash in some savings or a savings bond, a CD, stocks, perhaps get a payday loan. They could sell an old car. These are all things that we've experienced in different offices where ways that they paid for treatment. They could get a home equity loan against their home or even their car. Maybe the relative loans them the money. They could sell something on eBay or Craigslist, sell some at the pawn shop, or even barter with you for something they have that you might be able to use in the practice or for a service as well. Couple more that we'll just mention in terms of financing. This is one that not a lot of practices have thought about, but it's actually genius, which is to allow your patients to pay for treatment in advance, like a layaway program. So they could begin paying for treatment today, and make monthly payments in advance, and then when they paid enough, then they can have the treatment done. So paying in advance is certainly another option. That way you keep them in the practice as a patient, and they can work towards the dental goals that they have. Finally, you can create your own dental plan. As insurance continues to evolve and the reimbursement rates continue to go down, and financially it doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of people to even have dental insurance, more and more practices are creating their own dental plan where patients are paying them an annual fee that includes their exam, cleanings, and a special fee schedule in their specific office. So those are becoming more and more popular all over the country as we kind of see the demise of dental insurance. So once we have gone through those first 4 steps, we began with the benefit, we review the treatment plan, we introduce the fee, explore any concerns, and look at different payment options. Then the last is to finalize the commitment. So Pam, can you talk to us about the wisdom of separating financial arrangements from the appointment time?
Absolutely. That was a ton of resources to help patients pay for their treatment. It's really important to separate payment from the appointment. I know many of you will offer a percentage off of treatment if patients pay for their treatment prior to the appointment. Also make it about the benefit for the patient. Not only will they get a 5 or 7%, whatever the percentage you decide, the benefit is they can come in, not have to worry about anything else, have their treatment, and I always let them know that they can just wave at me on as they bypass me out the door after they receive the treatment. This also manages showing up, because I don't have to worry about the financial part. All I have to worry about is my treatment. And so making sure that you have firm financial arrangements, payment secured, all you have to worry about is a patient showing up, because the hard part's out of the way.
All right, so here is the next piece, which is once we've done financial arrangements, to get the patient commitment, which consists of 3 things. A scheduled future appointment. So ideally, a patient never walks out of the practice without a future scheduled appointment. They have signed financial arrangements that they have put their signature on, and you have a happy patient that is ready to repeat and refer others because they had such a great experience. So Pam is going to walk us through a 10-point financial arrangements quiz for great financial arrangements. So Pam, let's go. Here we go.
All right, I know that they all will get a 10 on this. Number 1, are your practice financial guidelines in writing?
So those are the what we talked about early on in the webinar, that your internal guidelines of what financial arrangements you offer, have you put those in writing so the entire team knows what is available in your practice?
Number 2, do you have a written list of financial options? We just went over a ton.
So that would be all the different ways that are possible that patients can pay for treatment. So if you have those, a written list, almost like a menu, that when you're working with a patient, you can use that as a cue card to go through and almost say, what about this? What about that? Have you considered this? Have you considered that?
Number 3, does your whole team know your options?
So that's a matter of training, of sitting down with your whole team. Even if a team member never does financial arrangements, everybody needs to know what type of payment options you offer your patients.
Number 4, do you have a solid relationship link before presenting financial arrangements?
So again, it's not just the money that we're talking about here. Financial arrangements, good, solid financial arrangements revolve around making sure that you clearly understand what the patient wants and why they want it, and keeping that present.
Number 5, do you present one treatment plan?
You know, so this brings up a really good point, Pam, which is multiple treatment options are not your friend in case acceptance. So if there are multiple treatment plans, the patient tends to get confused and they don't know what to do. So by the time you do financial arrangements, there should be one treatment plan that they've agreed to. So what you're working out are the actual arrangements for that plan.
Perfect. And what you went over earlier, Steve, which is getting the M&M, what matters most, that is your guide to presenting one financial treatment plan based on what the patient said they wanted. Number 5.
Let's see, I think we're on 6.
Number 6, do you present one fee?
So not 2 fees, not 3 fees, according to how many different, you have one treatment plan and you present one fee. Keep it simple.
Number 7, do you represent the office financial agreement when presenting financial arrangements?
In other words, so they've signed the office financial agreement up front when they signed in as a new patient, and then including that in the package when you go over financial arrangements to re-present that form so that they remember what they've agreed to. Number 8.
Number 8, do you have patients sign the financial arrangements?
So when you get done, making sure that they sign off on what they've agreed to so that you have that in writing in their chart.
And it's important that you give the patient a copy and you keep a copy as well. You scan it into the document center or place it in their chart if you have paper. Number 9, are you using the brief formula when presenting financial arrangements, which is begin with the benefit, review of findings, introduce the fee, explore, which is also known as overcoming objections, and finalizing. Number 10, do you measure results with regular accountability?
So in other words, do you keep score in financial arrangements in terms of what percentage of your patients accept, don't accept, and the reasons why, so that you're constantly working on ways that you can improve your financial arrangements performance. So that was a good quiz there, Pam. So here's a couple of resources, and then we'll go to questions. Again, this webinar today is being recorded. It'll be posted later today at crowncouncil.org under the Training tab, and then under Webinars, and it will be the first webinar listed. And along with that, you will have you can download the financial arrangements resource document that has the 7 third-party financing programs that we discussed today with some details about each one. So, and as well as their contact information, so that if you only have 1 or 2, you can make sure that you have at least 3 forms of third-party financing in your practice. And then additionally, if you have any questions as you're going along, you're always welcome to call our team at the Total Patient Service Institute, 1-877-399-8677. We've got a whole team of practice experts that Pam leads that can answer your financial arrangements questions or help point you in the right direction. All right, with that, Pam, let's talk about a couple of questions that have come up. So first question is, can you add an additional credit card processing fee, say 3%, for patients who use American Express? You might want to check this with Payment Alliance. My understanding is that it is not legal to add an additional percentage for credit card processing. Now, I may be wrong on that, and it may differ from state to state, but there has been some controversy over that over the years, not just in dentistry, but in other industries. So my understanding is that you cannot, but again, that would be something you got to check with your credit card merchant on to make sure that you're above the law there.
Absolutely, good question.
Next question, do you give a prepay option to patients with dental insurance on their patient portion? So let's say that the fee is $2,500 and the estimated insurance savings, Pam, let's say is $1,000. So the patient portion is going to be $1,500. So if the patient was willing to pay all $1,500 today, would you offer a prepay option and say give them a 5% courtesy on their portion? Is that yes or no?
Yes. Practices that I currently work with and have worked with in the past who extend a courtesy for prepayment, they don't exclude insurance payments as well. So they would extend it to them as well.
Got it. All very good questions. Next is the financial paperwork that was shown. Is that available to review? Yeah, so there's some of that is our suggestion. What I showed earlier in the webinar is the financial guidelines, also showed the financial policy and the easy pay form. So we will work to get all of that up on crowncouncil.org along with the webinar today so that you have those to review as well. Very good. Pam, thank you for all of your great wisdom in financial arrangements today. And thanks everybody for sharing the time with us today again. You're welcome to click on the link when it comes today. Use this with the rest of your team if they didn't get an opportunity to listen today. Financial arrangements is a team sport, and everybody needs to be trained and understand exactly how it works, even if they don't do it themselves every day. Thanks for being with us for our Crown Council webinar today. Again, thanks for being with us. Hope you have a super day, and we look forward to being with you for our next webinar. Have a great day, everybody.